Hello, everyone. You're watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, and National Parents Union. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Hello to America's beautiful children. We love you. And as I said last Tuesday, we will be doing a Policy Watch Tuesdays, breaking down your rights as parents, what you need to know, state by state, region by region. And so I hope that this is helpful. Please feel free to leave feedback or questions particular to your state so that I can best equip you with what you need to help your child thrive. And so today we are going to be talking about the compulsory education law or compulsory attendance law in the state of California, which I am in the state of California. So I'm going to be sharing some vital information with you, which I will go back and drop into the comment fields, the links after I discuss this information, but it's definitely stuff that you need to know. And so on Tuesdays, be looking for this vital information. So I want you to be more fortified, confident in your ability to choose the best education for your child possible, and at the same time understanding your rights, roles, responsibilities of the governments and LEAs and various parts that are a part of the education system. So today I'm going to start out with the compulsory attendance law for California. And in the state of California, and you can see I always check the source. You want to make sure that you are checking sources of data. You know, a lot of times we do Google searches, which is fine, but you definitely need to make sure that it's a reliable source of information and that you're not getting the information secondhand, because sometimes people are interpreting things in a different way than what the legislative information shows. So right here, you can definitely see that we are on the California Legislative Information site. And this is where you find the California law regarding education. Here's the education code. EDC would be the abbreviation education code, okay? Now, this is for elementary and secondary education. Here's the information that you would need to know right here. Compulsory education law. You see, it says 48200 through 48361. Definitely go back and check through 48200 and 48361 to find the vital information that I might not have time to share with you. What I'm going to do is just share the basic information and break it down so that you understand how the law works in your area. Right here, Article 1, persons included. So you see, it starts out at 48200, okay? And if we go up to the search bar, you can see what it says, leginfo, legislator.california.gov, okay? These are the ed codes. Now, in the state of California, the compulsory attendance, meaning what age is it mandatory for your child to be educated at? What I do want you to understand is that that does not mean that just because your state specifically sets an age limit, that you cannot start teaching your child. You're the primary educator prior to these age limits. These are just the mandatory school attendance types of age limits that the state sets forward through compulsory attendance laws. Okay, so we see the ed code 48200, and it shows you right here in the first sentence, every child between the ages of 6 and 18 not exempted under provisions of the chapter or chapter 3 commencing in section 48400. So like I said, up here, it's a series of codes per se, right? And so they're gonna have some provisions, some exceptions. definitely look that up if you feel like you may want to understand what that exemption may be. Look at section 48400. Children in the state of California, ages 16 to 18, are mandated to have full-time education, okay? It is compulsory, full-time education. That means you're mandated to have your child in a full-time education program, whether that be homeschool, whether that be a public traditional district-run school, or a public charter school, a private school, whatever type of education you may be seeking for your child. Just know that it is mandatory for the children between the ages of 6 and 18 to receive an education, a full-time education. Each person subject to compulsory full-time education and each person subject to compulsory continuation education not exempted under the provisions of Chapter 3, which again, that commences in Section 48,400 of the California Education Code. Shall attend the public full-time day or continuation school or classes, and for the full-time designated as the length of the school day by the governing body of the school district in which the residency or either the parent or legal guardian is located. Each parent, guardian, or other person having control or charge of the pupil shall send the pupil to public full-time day school or continuation school or classes, and for the full-time designated as the length of the school day by the governing body or board of the school district in which the residence or either the parent or legal guardian is located. Unless otherwise provided for in this code, a pupil shall not be enrolled for less than the minimum school day established by law, right? So what that means, really broken down, is that in your LEA, your local educational agencies, your school districts, where you reside within that boundary, there are rules set. Typically, we see that 6 hours, 6.5 hours is the school day, the length of the full-time education day. Sometimes you see in kindergarten, they have established that it's going to be 3 or 3.5 hours, considered half-day kindergarten. That's fine. A lot of times, kindergarten is not really considered mandatory, but it is highly recommended. Again, like I said, you do not have to wait until your child is 6 to begin educating them. I highly recommend that you begin educating them early on, as soon as they're born. As a matter of fact, studies show if you read to your baby while they're while you're pregnant with them, play music and things like that is very helpful for, getting them accustomed to hearing stories and understanding that type of material. Now, what we're going to do is move from, and I do want you to know, if you plan on homeschooling your child, okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that so I can bring up the next tab. If you plan on homeschooling your child, you can do so legally. You just need to fill out what is called a private affidavit. And this is just for the most part. So you need to fill out a private school affidavit. Okay, I'm about to bring that screen up. That is going to be what you want to do. So if you intend to homeschool your child at, full-time education, you're going to want to make sure that you do fill out this private school affidavit, and I am showing that. So here is who should file a private affidavit, right? Again, we're going to look at the source, California Department of Education, cde.ca.gov. Make sure that you are going to the source, a vital and accurate source of information. You do not want to get this information secondhand and have to do a lot of guesswork. You really want to understand what your rights and also what your responsibilities are, okay? Private school affidavit information. Who should file a private school affidavit? Well, it says right here, all persons, firms, associations, partnerships, or corporations that are offering or conducting private school instruction at the elementary or high school level, which is that elementary secondary education, shall annually, so make sure that you know the dates when this private school affidavit opens up, and that you refile it annually, okay? What I have seen is that it's in October, okay? So be aware of that. File an affidavit or statement with the California Department of Education. So right here, we see that this is included, but is not limited to conventional traditional private schools, private school satellite programs, private online virtual schools, parents, okay? Parents who operate a private homeschool, or if you're a certified non-public sectarian school. Now, I want you to see private homeschool information. What you need to know is that you have the right to educate your child at home, full-time education, okay? It is stating it right here. You need to file a private school affidavit for at-home in full-time educational instruction. What it is also stating is that California Department of Education is not going to provide you with guidance on how to homeschool, okay? Now, here is where those vital networks and groups of homeschoolers, especially well-seasoned ones, are useful, because now they can help guide you and assist you through this process. I homeschool my children through a public charter school. I understand the process of what that looks like. I also have filed a private school affidavit and homeschooled that way. When I filed the private school affidavit, I was responsible for every aspect of my children's education, from lesson plans, recording their hours of attendance of full-time education, also the materials that I purchased, curriculum. None of that was provided for me. So just know that that is a part of your responsibility, and they're not going to offer those resources, okay? Basically, just be aware that also some of the homeschooling networks and groups have all kinds of resources that they share, grade level, content, curriculum, record keeping help, transcripts, all of those things. They'll help you and guide you through. I will add some of these websites to these groups if you're considering filing a private school affidavit and homeschooling your children. I will definitely add in some of these big support groups that will be there to help you through the process, so that it does not have to feel intimidating, so it does not have to feel like a scary thing. I know a lot of parents are really considering doing the homeschool option for their children. I just want you to know the law and your rights, and how compulsory attendance mandates certain things. And so this private school affidavit will be one of them. California Education Code, and it will show you that that is in section 33190. So if you want to look this up in the Google chat, you will put California Education Code section 33190. I'm not going to delineate that today. And then it would give you all of the laws and rules regarding that, okay? The affidavit is required, okay? You have to file it with the state, CDE. And what must be included in that affidavit are also outlined in some of these ed codes, okay? The attendance of the pupils shall be kept private. School authorities in a register, and the record of attendance shall indicate clearly every absence of the pupil from school for a half day or more each day that his school is maintained during the school year. Parents are not required, though, to report to their school district. However, keeping in mind that the school district has responsibility for checking on school-age children not attending school, you might avoid confusion by informing the district that you intend to homeschool or privately educate your child. This is the very important information that you need to understand. If you have a school-age child residing in a local district that decides that they want to know how your child is being full-time educated, your record keeping is vital. Your copy of your private school affidavit and your attendance record keeping, subject matter and subject area content. What are you teaching? And is that comparable to what your child's peers are learning in the same grade level, math, science, ELA, history, social studies, all of those wonderful things, right? You know, I consider homeschooling, I don't want it to be comparable to what the school district is offering. I want it to go above and beyond, and that's why I do it. I want to excel those local district standards, just because that's what I prefer for me and my family. But at the fundamental bare minimum, you have to show that you are meeting state standards per grade level. Okay, so we're going to stop sharing. And I'm going to bring up another, and again, this is not funded. This is not something that, you know, the local district's going to fund. They're not going to give you the resources, and the California Department of Education has stated that they don't give guidance on how to homeschool. Here's what I do want to show. Again, as a part of this whole legislative information policy watch guidance show that we're doing on Tuesdays. So certain states have what is called a constitutional guarantee to an education, a right to an education, right? What you need to understand is that the federal government or the U.S. Supreme Court has not granted a fundamental right or guarantee constitutionally to an education. Yet some states have created a constitutional guarantee, which, you know, is they're able to do. So what the state of California is saying is that education is a fundamental right under the California Constitution. And like I said, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that there is no fundamental right to education under the federal Constitution. So for those of you that are hearing this for the first time, understand that you do not have federal protections or guarantees under the National Constitution or Federal Constitution of the United States to a right to an education. But there are some states that have a constitution that grant a right to an education. And it shows you, you know, what that means. Here's the article in the section of the California Constitution recognizes general diffusion of knowledge and intelligence essential to the preservation of the rights and liberties of the people. Because of this principle, California has assumed specific responsibility for a statewide public education system open on equal terms to all. Okay, there's the case law right there if you want to look that up. Anytime you see this type of information, it's the case law that establishes what they just quoted. Okay, let's break the next one down now. And I do want to say, it does say a general diffusion of knowledge and intelligence. Okay, what may be considered general is just basic. Okay, a lot of us are looking for a high quality education and a right, a civil right, just like this one, to a high quality education, as we should be. This is saying that what they have is a general diffusion of knowledge and intelligence. So we need to really be pursuing high quality public education options. Private school affidavits being your right to homeschool, and you get to pick what that quality is like. And I know a lot of parents that are doing that. the equal protection clauses, the state of California Constitution, and it shows the section, article, all of that. You can look that up. Bar the state from maintaining the public school system in a manner that denies some students the basic, remember I use that word basic as general, look for those words because they count, educational necessities provided to other students, meaning if I have a 6-year-old that I want to enroll in my local district where I live, they cannot be denied the right to an education. So they can be, under this constitutional guarantee, able to receive an education. What is that education going to look like? Again, says general, basic, okay? Doesn't delineate the level of quality, but the compulsory attendance of full-time education does delineate are the school hours, school content per grade level, standards, state standards. What is your child supposed to learn in kindergarten? What are they supposed to learn first grade, second grade, and on? Elementary and secondary education standards, what that looks like. You may not like it. That's why you have the right to also pursue homeschooling, public high quality charter school, private school, whatever that may be, but you do need to know that your child is supposed to be enrolled in a full-time education program at age 6 to 18. So I'm going to drop this in the chat, basically, you know, again, letting you know that they can't deny your child the right to attend your local school. A lot of people ask, well, what about district transfers and intra-district transfers or out-of-district transfers or magnet and gate? Well, that's not really delineated here. Okay, so that's going to be up to your local district's policies and procedures and practices. So definitely be checking into what those policies, procedures, and practices are. If you want your child to not attend the school that they're assigned to and attend another option, are they really going to be able to do that? You need to understand your rights as a parent and what those policies, procedures, and practices say. I'm here to break down basic information. Again, if you have questions with regards to anything in particular that you see in this document, definitely reach out to me, Christina at mpunion.org, but I want you to understand what your rights are. I'm going to stop sharing this and go to the next. So right now, what I do want you to know about is what happens if you decide that your child is of school age, okay, and you didn't file a private school affidavit, they're not enrolled in a program that is qualified as a full-time education program. There are school attendance review boards, okay? Or if you did enroll your child in a program or a school and they just are not attending, there are school attendance rules and regulations you need to be aware of. A lot of times people get letters from SARB saying, you know, that there's penalties involved with their child's absences or truants. And under the state of California, California Department of Education, they have the right to do so. So the School Attendance Review Board, and this is information about school attendance and review boards, okay? These are, says right here, and again, we make sure the source. These are composed of school and community members who meet regularly to diagnose and resolve persistent school attendance or behavior problems. If the school and the community are meeting regularly to resolve persistent student attendance or behavior problems, you as a community member, you have a parent, have the right to request to be on that review board. You want to participate, you want to give your authentic voice, talk about the issues that students face, talk about behavior resolutions, and help be a part of that planning. You do not want decisions to be made absent your authentic voice. So make sure you find out how you, if you would like to get involved on the board with the school community, you're part of the school community. As a matter of fact, as parents and community, we're key stakeholders. Okay, we can, as major stakeholders, we do not have to allow for our voices to be omitted or ignored. And so make sure that you're there to diagnose alongside of school officials and resolve what these issues are. Here is the California Compulsory Education Laws require, again, I was talking about that ages 6 to 18 years of age to attend school. Here is an exception. An exception to the 18 is if your child is 16, 17, and they have graduated from high school already, because there are children that graduate early. I graduated early. I was 17 and I graduated a semester early. You know, this does happen. That's an exception. Or if they have passed the California High School Proficiency Exam and obtained parental permission to leave. Some students, however, violate compulsory education laws and have a pattern of unexcused absences. Although truancy and excessive absenteeism are not a new problem, they cause costly long-term problems for students, school, and the community. So it's telling you that the legislator enacted in section 48320 the ability to enforce compulsory attendance laws. You need to understand this because that enforcement involves the diversion of students with school attendance or behavior problems into the juvenile justice system. Okay. I have to tell you, if you are finding it very challenging and difficult to have your child enrolled in the local district school, maybe it's just not working for them, right? Please seek out quality public options, private options, homeschool that work best for your family. Because what you don't want is to have this type of enforcement on you and for your children to be diverted into the juvenile justice system, okay? This is an area of attendance law that you, according to compulsory attendance law or education law, that you definitely want to pay attention to. I know parents that have gotten letters and they weren't able to really understand what that SARB review letter meant or that truancy letter meant. And so here it is right here, delineating what they do, what their right is to enforce, and how they can divert a child with school attendance or behavior problems to the juvenile justice system until all other resources have been exhausted. We can definitely go through that if you need help, particularly for your student, but I'm just giving you an overview of what that looks like and how to locate this information. You need to be aware. I do not want any of your children diverted to the juvenile justice system for reasons that could be avoided, okay? Again, here's the Legislative Analyst's Office review of compulsory attendance, compulsory education laws. I use those terms interchangeably because that's what it is. The average daily attending student, ages 16 through 18, compulsory attendance mandates that they attend a full-time education program. And, you know, here are some laws clarifying homeschooling and truancy policies, penalties, and you definitely want to just look through this. You know, they have interventions required if the parent violates compulsory education laws. Again, I was talking about the SARB, the you know, School Attendance Review Board, how to get involved with that, right? What can be done? You do not want your child diverted to the juvenile justice system. School level interventions, because it goes in tiers. And then district level interventions, and then eventually it will be a county and court intervention. Here is what classifies the court's authority. You have district attorneys' options in dealing with truancy. Again, delineated through Education Code 48293. Okay, parents need to understand they can get fines, they can get mandated to certain types of programs, all kinds of things, be found in contempt, could be a misdemeanor. I mean, you can, you know, a lot can happen. So be on top of this stuff. Here's the penal code that goes along with the education code on truancy. So attached to the education code, the justice system has a penal code 272, which you can also look up, penal code section 272, to find out what that says. Again, here you go, Welfare and Institutions Code, section 601, right? So you need to know what these institutions are, what rights they have over you and your children, your household, right? Through a compulsory attendance regulations, okay? Have to know this, it's very important. I don't want anyone to be caught off guard. Here you have unresolved questions related to the homeschooling law. Check that out. Non-public schools can also register with the California Department of Education. And so I'm going to leave this in the chat for more information. It's lengthy. Just take your time and go through that. If that is something, I'm going to leave this as well. Let me stop sharing. And let's see. I had one more thing that I wanted to touch on before we end today. So a lot of parents say, you know, how is the schools in California funded? Okay, here we see again the California Department of Education. What we're talking about is the local control funding formula. Your local district probably calls it the LCAP, Local Control and Accountability Plan, right? That should be public information for you to be able to review how much funding they receive, how they're allocating and spending that funding, how they're meeting measures of measurable outcomes and setting goals. They have key areas that they set you know, goals for to produce measurable outcomes. Some of them may be like college and career readiness, student engagement. You know, you just need to look at what areas. There are specific areas for specific categories as well, because the local control funding formula and the schools do have subpopulations. Those subpopulations under LCFF to be considered are, of course, the average daily attending student. You have foster youth, you have homeless, you have English learners, and you have special education. You need to understand if your child falls into those categories. You know, they have other other populations like with Title I, and different rules and regulations regarding that. We could definitely talk about Title I some other day, but right now what I want you to understand is that here is how the local control funding formula works, okay? So the local control funding formula, or also known as LCFF, and at your district it's going to be under LCAP, LCAP, Local Control and Accountability Plan, tells you when it was enacted, tells you what it replaced. We used to have a categorical funding type of system. Now we have a local control funding formula. Not saying that it works, just or doesn't, just giving you the breakdown of what is going on here in the state of California. So for school districts and charter schools, which are public schools in the state of California, the local control funding formula establishes uniform grade span grants in the place of the myriad of previously existing K through 12 funding streams, including revenue limits, general purpose block grants, and most state categorical programs. Categorical, not in the sense of what student populations, like I was saying, categorical, changed from categorical to local control funding formula. Districts went from categorical types of board seats to area directors types of situations. There's a whole myriad of things that happen per district that you need to be aware of, right? Here is the information, how they transitioned, and the description, okay? So right here, I'm gonna drop this information in the chat. I had a lot of parents asking me, here you see right here, ADA, right? ADA, average daily attending student, okay? Tells you the populations of who these grants serve and what their purpose is. The component, the description. I'm gonna make sure you have that information. Have any questions, reach out to me. I just wanna show you what it looks like and what you should be looking for, okay? And you need to be looking at your LCAP's measurements of outcome. How are they planning to utilize the funding? For one, a lot of people sit on school site councils, yet don't really know that that feeds up into the LCAP, okay? So what's happening at the school site level is a part of the plan that feeds into what the funding is going to look like in the budgetary processes for the local control accountability plan under the local control funding formula. I know this is a lot of information. Again, it's something that takes time to process, read through, and understand. I'm giving you the knowledge so that you could be more equipped when you approach questions about this stuff. I'm gonna bring up another chat just so I can show you a resource that is also very helpful. So here we have the EdSource, and they have a lot of information that is just basically broken down in the chunks, bite-sized pieces, right? And on this topic, you can see right here, local control funding formula. They're talking about how California reformed, right? It said that they started using this formula in 13-14. You need to find out what the time spans are on those. Is it a 3-year, it's 3 years? What is the amount of information that is vital to you? Is how are they going to produce those measurable outcomes? How are they allocating the funding? Where is the funding supposed to be going to, and where is it actually going to is definitely something you want to know. Here is an article that you may want to look up, and it is called "The First Big Reform of California's Education Funding Law Awaits the Governor's Signature." As you can see, this is from September 16th, 2020, so it's up to date. Read that and definitely find out what is being said there. I really do not have time to go through it today, but I definitely would admonish you to check that article out. Now I'm going to share one more thing about the local control funding formula that I also would say that would be a good idea for you to read and research, or delineate what's happening here. I'm going to stop sharing, get to that page. Actually, two more things. So here is a guide, an essential EdSource guide to the local control funding formula. I am going to, and it has the key questions and answers, okay? I'm going to drop this information in the chat. Anyone that wants this stuff emailed to them, reach out to me, Christina@mpunion.org. This is lengthy. You can go through it. Questions and answers, right? How are state funds allocated? This is what I'm saying about the local control funding formula, LCAP. Okay. What do those projections look like, right? What are the measurements of outcome, right? How is it allocated across the various subpopulations, right? You know, and what types of grants they receive, the school districts. Okay, so there's that information. And let's see, we have one more, and I enjoy doing this Policy Watch Tuesday for you guys to break down for you, because, you know, I really want families, you families, parents, legal guardians, to understand what your rights are, to feel confident when you're approaching, you know, these questions, just to understand how to be best equipped to make sure that your students thrive. Okay, last one. States in motion, okay? Visualizing how education funding has changed over time. Right here, you can look at what California's investment in public education is compared to other states. I like to use a comparison as a measurement tool so that you can see how are we doing and what's happening in other places with similar demographics, right? The question that is usually looming in my mind is, why is it that we're 50 points behind nationally other states, right? We used to be not 50 points behind. Now we are. And so that's something that you need to know. Why are we so behind with our education, public education system compared with other states? This is the comparative analysis tool that you can look it up and you can see where we're at, okay? And it definitely gives you all of the information that you need to know to follow this process all the way through, okay? So again, I said that I would be dropping this information in the comment field for you. I hope that this is helpful, just breaking it down in bite sizes, so in little chunks, so that you will begin to feel equipped if you haven't felt equipped, to feel confident if you haven't felt confident. And for those of you that understand a lot of this information, this will help better fortify you when you're advocating on behalf of your child and other people's children. Also, you know, community leaders, please share this information with community leaders and organizations. You cannot assume that the community leaders and organizations really know all of these integral and moving parts of the education system. Sometimes we have to be there to say, well, let me help you and delineate what this is. Some of them, you know, their children have already graduated, or they may not have children, but they care about, you know, what's going on, but just quite don't know what it is they're looking at. And so this information will help you parents, guardians, and families to be able to share that with various community members, local organizations that are looking to help out with your children so that they thrive. And so I hope this has been helpful. Again, you have been watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, and National Parents Union. I will see you again on Thursday, where we will have some great, amazing guests. And just be looking for Policy Watch Tuesday, breaking down your rights, bite-sized pieces, so that you're better equipped, confident, and fortified in helping your child to have a high-quality public education, homeschool education, whatever that may be. And if you have any feedback, comments, or requests for the area or region that you're in, please feel free to either drop them in the chat, comment field, or email me at christina@mpunion.org. It has been my pleasure. I hope that you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Goodbye to America's beautiful children. We love you, and we will see you again on Managing Day to Day. Bye-bye.